All right, good afternoon, traders. Today's Friday. It is May 9th, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I'm the lead instructor here at BYOB Trading. Thank you for being here. Thank you, all the members that have paid for subscriptions. Thank you so much for being here. I try very hard to provide valuable content with actionable, profitable trades every day. Appreciate your patronage to our services. I want to thank everybody out there in podcast land, digital land, cyber land. Thank you for following me and finding value in the content. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the like. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you so much. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hey, before I get started, I want to go through something. All right, Doug Campbell on Monday is going to have an open house from 9:30 to 4. Okay, you got to get registered. All you do is take your smartphone, scan that block or that brick right there. Okay, and that'll open up a web page for you to get registered. Okay, you can't attend unless you get registered. All right, so there's your chance to get registered for Doug's open house. Doug is probably a specialist in options. He does a great job with it, explaining it, teaching it, and come on in and join Doug for some learning, all right? Especially some option learning, all right? So, again, Doug on Monday, the 12th, 9:30 to 4. All right, hope to see you there. All right, let's go take a look at some charts today. SPY. Yeah, I'm going to share that. Well, if you want the link, Ed wants to share it right now. You'll have to copy it, all right, if you're out there in digital land, but I will post it in there. But that is the link right there. Just copy that link address right there if you can't scan QR codes, and that will set you up with the registration. Okay, just copy that exactly. All you got to do is stop the video and tap that into your browser. All right? I'll have it also in my description. All right, 10-minute chart. What do we got here? We got 10-minute, maybe a 10-minute uptrend, maybe a 10-minute down. Got a 10-minute downtrend coming into the close so far. We'll check it out later when we come back to it. 2-hour. Got a 2-hour uptrend coming into the close. We'll check it later. We'll have to come back to it. Daily chart. Got a lower high and a higher low. So an inside day. All right. That's a consolidation day. All right. Lower high, higher low. Closing over a bullish trap. Okay. Over the 17 EMA right here. Price action. Up over this purple line right here. It's over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the uptrend line, knocking on the door of the bullish 1/3 up there. Okay, making higher lows and higher highs. That's in an uptrend. 2-day still in a downtrend. 3-day still in a downtrend. Weekly still in a downtrend. They got to take out this high up there. Okay, monthly is still in an uptrend. Okay, so there's SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ. All right, QQQ on the daily chart. QQQ inside day as well. Okay, lower high, higher low, closing over the trap, over the 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Up here, knocking on the door of the bullish 1/3 up there. So SPY and QQQ neutral, but both in uptrends right now. Okay, let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow neutral as well. All right, not in the lower third, not in the upper third. Inside day as well. We'll check that out. The low is 411.57. The low is 411.57. Equal lows, lower high. I'm going to call it an inside day. Closing just over the bullish trap, over the 17, over the downtrend line, but under the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Price action for Diamond Dow on the daily is neutral, making higher lows and higher highs. It's in an uptrend. Let's take a look at FNGA or B or C. Making higher lows and higher highs, that's an uptrend. Closing in the neutral zone, not in the lower third, not in the upper third. Closing underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP and in an uptrend. So uptrend, neutral. A lot of stuff just uptrend, neutral. Not much has hit the bullish side yet. Okay? They're working on it. They're knocking on the door up there. IWM in a weak daily uptrend, might be a one-day pullback. You can see that tail underneath there, and then a rip up to make a higher high. Okay, so price action, higher low, higher high, just barely. Okay, uptrend on IWM on the daily chart, still underneath this. It's the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Price action, not in the lower third, not in the upper third, so just neutral. Again, everybody's kind of neutral and in uptrends right now. Nobody really taking off. Take a look at our technicals. All right, we spent the day in, we spent the day in the buy zone all day. All right, T2122. Didn't even make it to the buyer's chop zone or the sell zone. Let's take a look at T2123. Bullish. All right, see them, they gapped up yesterday. They're still holding that bullish gap, and they moved up and they're holding the higher ground. That's bullish. Okay, anytime we see consolidation over prior consolidation, okay, that's a bullish environment. Anytime you see price action up over, anytime you see price action up here over this 200 SMA, okay, right here, that's the red line, that's a bullish environment. Price moves up, holds the higher ground, that's a bullish environment. You move up and you hold the higher ground, that's a bullish environment. You move up and you give it up, that's neutral. You move down and you give it up, that's neutral. All right, but when you move up, hold that higher ground, that's bullish. If you move down and hold the lower ground, that's bearish. Okay, so there we go. All right, so price action moving up, holding the higher ground. That's on the 15-minute chart. Let's take a look at the 3-bar chart. 3-bar chart right here. Price action still hasn't made any higher highs. You look back here on, excuse me, on the 15-minute chart, okay? You can see price action making higher lows and higher highs on the 15-minute chart. On the 3-bar chart, the first high to take out is these green dots up here. Okay, so we have not made any higher highs on the bigger time frame. So a lot of work to be done. Notice on the 15-minute chart, we were over the 200 SMA. On the 3-bar chart, we are under the 200 SMA. Okay, remember the larger time frames are more reliable and the larger time frames rule. Okay, so whatever they're going in is pretty much the direction. Price action is probably more than 50% of the time going to head off into. So there's T2123 3-bar chart. Okay, still in a downtrend because it hasn't made any higher highs, but the good news is it's not moving up. You can see the last time we got a V-bottom bounce here, but we made a lower high and the bears were inspired to make a lower low, and we did. And then of course we didn't have another V-bottom bounce. Instead we just hung out here on the lower ground. Okay, they moved down and held the lower ground. All right, and that was a bearish flag, and then they had to move down here. Okay, so we're still in the midst of this big bear flag. All right, they're just in a pullback right now. Hopefully, if the 3-bar chart can take out those highs, okay, we will have ourselves a 3-bar uptrend. We'll see where it goes from here. All right, so far it's looking good. They're starting to fill this bearish gap right there. We like that. Okay, fill that gap. All right, hold the higher ground, fill up the next gap, and then next thing you know, we're taking out the highs. We'll see what happens. Okay, FNG A or FNG B. All right, we got a bullish gap, still hasn't been filled. That's a bullish environment. Again, FNG A or B. Okay, price action consolidating over prior price action. That is a bullish environment. Price action moving up and holding the higher ground. Okay, so we'll move up and move over to the right. That's a bullish environment. Moving up over this 200 SMA, also a bullish environment. and hanging out on top of this high anchored VWAP, that's also a bullish environment. So still looking good on FNGA and FNGB. All right, let's take a look at a few technicals. No, not technicals, a few sectors. We'll start off with XLE. XLE got a higher low and a higher high, closing over a trap. Still in the lower third. Okay, see how it closed in the lower third, so it's still bearish. No uptrend yet. They needed to take out this high. It was not a very tall task to take care of. They still couldn't get it done. All right, so XLE still in a downtrend. Okay, because they took out this low. They made a lower low. They've yet to make higher highs, so they're still in a downtrend. Still in the bottom 1/3, so they're still bearish. Okay, you can see XLE caught underneath this 12-month high anchored VWAP, caught underneath this downtrend line 1 and downtrend line 2. Okay, so price action, bearish, downtrend on XLE. Let's take a look at USO. Price action making lower lows, so that's in a downtrend. Down here in the lower third, that's bearish. Okay, not making any higher highs. They got to take out this high right here. They haven't done it yet. They're still in a downtrend. Price action today, a little bit better. Higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish cross and over the falling 17 EMA. That's these red dots right here. Still underneath this 3-year high anchored VWAP. That's the post-COVID high. Still underneath that. So still bearish. All right. Still in a downtrend. Let's take a look at UNG. All right. Price action is higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. Okay. Underneath this closing on the other side of the downtrend line. Okay, so really spiking that downtrend line. Currently still in a downtrend. Okay, see the low, there's a low, there's a low. They made lower lows. See this down here, that's a lower low. So making lower highs and lower lows, that's a downtrend. But the good news is in the past 12 days price has been moving up, okay, while in this downtrend. Or what do you call that? Call that a pullback in the downtrend. Price action currently no longer in the bearish 1/3 case, in the neutral zone right here, attacking the downtrend line over the midpoint or midfield right here. Price action up over this 12-month high anchored VWAP, that's bullish. Up over the midpoint, also a little bit bullish, okay, but still in a downtrend. Okay, so that's bearish, all right? So still neutral right here and in a downtrend, UNG. Let's take a look at GLD. All right, GLD putting in an inside day, okay? Closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17 up here in quadrant 4. Okay, here's the quad line, it's quadrant 4, so that's bullish. And making higher lows and higher highs, that's an uptrend, so that's bullish. Okay, price action here, you can see up over the uptrend line, bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at silver. Silver's in a downtrend, all right? They've yet to make a higher high. Okay, they got themselves in a downtrend by taking out this low, and this low, and that low, okay? They got themselves in this downtrend. Now, in order to negate the downtrend, guess what? They got to take out a high, all right? And that was the high to take out. They failed to do it. But what they did do is create a lower high, all right? And now we've got a higher low. Now the question is, can they take out this lower high and negate the downtrend that they're currently in and convert it to an uptrend? Right now we got a downtrend line right there. They've yet to, how do you say it there? They've yet to transition over it. Okay, they're still up in the upper third, so that's bullish. They're still in a downtrend because they haven't made a higher high. Okay, but let's look at the facts. They're moved up and they're holding the higher ground up here. Okay, that's a bullish environment. Okay, they might be in a downtrend, or man, again, it's just a label, but currently they've moved up and holding this upper third. That's bullish. All right, so price action, bullish. This is hanging out over this 6-month high anchored VWAP, and it doubles as a 12-year high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, so that is in the bullish sector up here, okay, but in a downtrend. All right, they could convert it. All they got to do is pop that high. All right, and underneath the downtrend line. Okay, just got a little bit of work to do. Looking like a pennant is playing out right here. So there's silver. Let's take a look at SMH. Semiconductors. Okay, making higher lows and higher highs. That's an uptrend. Okay, no longer in the lower third, so that's neutral. Underneath this pink line, that's the all-time high anchored VWAP. Over downtrend line 1, but under downtrend line 2. Okay, price action attacking the midpoint right here. Price action is in an uptrend, but neutral because it's not in the lower third and it's not in the upper third. Okay, let's look at the big brother for SMH. That's XLK. All right, that's the technology sector. Notice SMH. All right, back here in quadrant 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Still in quadrant 2. Okay, big brother right here. XLK, a little meaner, a little leaner, a little stronger. Okay, up here in quadrant 3. Okay, so that's on the bullish side of the midpoint right there. Okay, so XLK, higher low, higher high. That's an uptrend closing over. See the pink line, all-time high anchored VWAP, closing underneath this uptrend line and closing over the 17 EMA and over the bullish trap right there. So knocking on the door to the upper third up there. We've said that for a few indexes as well. We had SPY knocking on the door. We had QQQ knocking on the door. Okay, as soon as they get up there and hold that higher ground in that upper third, it's game on. All right, I think the market's going to be ready to start buying. All right, price action for XLK on the daily chart. Again, that's in an uptrend and neutral at this time. Let's take a look at XLF. It's our financial sector. Notice they're in quadrant 1. That's bullish up in quadrant 1. Up over, see the pink line, all-time high anchored VWAP. That's bullish. Closing up over the bullish trap, over the green 17 EMA right there. Quadrant 1, that's an uptrend, higher lows, higher highs, over the trap, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Look, my best setup that I like to find, all right, you don't have to write this down because it's on the recording, okay? But this is what I really like, a 10-minute uptrend over VWAP. I like that 10-minute uptrend over VWAP to be over inside of a 2-hour uptrend. And I like that 2-hour uptrend to be inside of a daily uptrend. Okay? And if you put all that together and you're up on top of all-time anchored VWAP, all-time high anchored VWAP, now you've set yourself up for a premium strategy that is probably more than 50% likely to work for you, okay? Provided you have some skills and you know that, you just don't buy the opening wherever you feel like it. You strategize and find your spot. In other words, you enter at a strategic point, okay? And you manage it bar by bar or while it stays in that 3-ace trap over VWAP, okay? All right, that's my favorite strategy. And the premium is when they're up over they're in a daily uptrend and you're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Okay, that's showing me that the market wants this product. Okay, whenever I see price action up over all-time high anchored VWAP, means they're willing to pay more than the average price for that product, okay? That's what it should sell for, is VWAP, all right? Volume weighted average price. But the market likes this product so much, they're willing to exceed that. They're willing to pay more for this because they feel like it's undervalued, all right? So that's my premium strategy right there, when you can put all of that together all in one. Okay, so there's XLF uptrend, okay? Bullish up in the upper third. Let's take a look at IYT, then we're going to call it a weekend. All right, don't forget Doug, on Monday. Okay, don't forget to get registered for Doug on Monday. All right, that's at 9:30 to 4. Okay, they'll send you the credentials. You just got to get registered. Okay, IYT, higher low, higher high. Is that a higher high? It's questionable. High is 64.02. High is 64.04. Inside day, lower high, higher low, closing over the bullish trap. Okay, the bullish trap is, see the 3 EMA on top of the 8 EMA? Okay, that's a bullish trap. If the 3 was under it, okay, that would be a bearish trap. Okay, notice when price is on top of these 17 EMA balls, all right, it's green. Okay, when it's under, it's red. Okay, so price is above the 17. Okay, so over the bullish trap, over the 17, under, see this pink line? That's the all-time high anchored VWAP. Under the midpoint, not in the lower third, not in the upper third. So neutral, all right, putting in higher lows. See the high, putting in a higher high. Okay, so uptrend and neutral. We said that a lot about a lot of things. Okay, uptrend and neutral. Okay, so there's IYT on the daily chart. All right, I'll take a look at a few questions. All right, Robert wants to look at TEM. Anything changed? Got a red candle. Okay, TEM. You got. You're on top of support right now. You're getting a pullback to support. See, nice 2 candle pullback to support. Watch for the MMRP. All right, on TEM. Looking good. This is bullish. Higher low, higher high. See the high? They're making a higher high. That's bullish. Okay, you just jumped on top of support. Be nice to make sure if support holds, this looks good to go climb this mountain right here. Okay, as long as support holds. Okay, anytime you see that that peak between 2 valleys, that's going to be a target. See that right there? That's a target. See how they ripped up and now they're pulling back right to that peak right there. Okay, so there's your target coming back to that peak. All right, it's on TEM. All right, as long as resistance holds as support now. Okay, see how we bumped our head on resistance. As long as resistance holds as support, you can look for price action to consolidate. All right, and probably start climbing this wall of candles all the way up to the breakdown candle high. Okay, that's your next target up there. Okay, that's TEM. Uptrend, I like it. Making higher lows, higher highs. I like that. T10. All right, T10 is, looks like an IPO at the beginning of the year. You got consolidation here. You're up over the initial anchored VWAP. You're holding the higher ground so far, and you're up on top of support. So I like this. Okay, just got to make a higher high. That's all. All right, you made an equal low, and you made a higher high here. You made a higher low here. I think you're due for a higher high. Okay. Notice you had a two bottom right here, like 3 top up here. We'll see if you can make that higher high. This looks good. Other than that, it probably consolidates off to the right, and you see if you can get a breakout and make sure, watch that breakout closely, make sure it succeeds and it doesn't fail. All right, so that's bullish. All right, because you got consolidation over prior consolidation. That's a bullish environment. Okay, see that? Consolidation over prior consolidation. You also got yourself a bull flag. Okay, that is a bullish environment. Move up and over to the right. That's a bullish environment. You're up over, you're up over this right here. That's looking good. That's the initial anchored VWAP from the beginning of time right there, the high, That's a bullish environment. All right, and got one more thing to check here. Let's drag this over to that all-time high. Okay, and you can see price action closed over the all-time high. If they can hold this for 5 days straight, 4 days straight, up here over the all-time high, you're probably going to get yourself a breakout to the upside. So look for this to hold 4 or 5 days, and then watch for that breakout over the all-time high. T10 looks good. That's bullish. All right, let's take a look at ACLO. All right, ACLO's got an inverse head and shoulders. Okay, you're right. You got some resistance right here. You're into resistance. You're up over a couple of anchored VWAPs here. Just got to make a higher high. That's it. Okay, got a higher low. There's the high to beat. See that high that pokes through the 17? Got to beat that high. The good news is you got 4 days up here over this anchored VWAP. It's a possibility you get a nice breakout. That would be my target, coming up over 31.57 right there. Okay, that's bullish. They're still holding this higher ground so far. All right, they got an inverted head and shoulders. Okay, if they start this thing going, look for the right arm to extend up to where the left arm left off, right here. Okay, so look for this to go all the way back up there. That is if they break the neckline right through here. Okay, they got to get over resistance first. Okay, see all these bearish engulfing moves? Here, 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 and here. Okay? So you got to get up over that. Okay, you got to get on top of that right up there. Okay, get up on top of this area right here. Okay, a little bit on top of that, and then I look for an attack on that high right there. Okay, so it's looking good. These are bullish. It's looking good. You got a downtrend line. You broke the downtrend line. Well, you got this downtrend line here. Okay, you got a downtrend line here. So up to there, and I'd look for them to challenge this downtrend line and probably line up with the top of that peak right there, 32.18. All right, looking good. Looking good, Robert. Looking good. All right, any other questions? Any other questions out there? No? All right, everybody, thank you for hanging out with us this week. All right, everybody have a beautiful weekend. Don't forget Mother's Day is this Sunday. Say hi to your mom, call your mom. All right, say hi to your wife. Bring her some flowers. All right, don't forget. All right, stay out of the doghouse. Okay? All right, everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you on Monday. All right, traders, we were going to talk about how I made 10K today. Okay, so here's my trades for today. Okay, I had some puts, closed those out for $1,500 gain, and had some other puts, traded those for a $12,000 gain, and had some calls, and I took a hit on the calls, so I lost $21 right there. So let's go look at these puts, start with those. Closed those out early this morning. Okay, you can see price action was, let's see, puts. Oh, those were short. Okay, those were puts that were short. And, of course, price moved down. So I covered, all right, because they were, I covered those for a profit. Okay, so those were short puts. All right, and the other one was the $12,000 gain, and that was these puts right here, the 0 DTE 560 puts, so we'll look at those. And you can see right here, price action was coming across the top here, and we had the first five 15 minutes, okay, and we had a breakout of the first 15 minutes right through here, okay, to the downside, okay, and then they came back up here, tested the opening brick. That'd be the first 15 minutes, the opening range, and then you can see then they finally broke through, and we had a 10-minute downtrend under VWAP right here, and we traded this down from and get the arrows. Okay, so we traded this from this area up here, okay, right up here, all right, down to these lows down here, and then we did it again right here, okay, traded these from that area up there down into these lows down here. So we had a double bottom, and then price rallied back up and then petered out. Okay, so those puts, you can see price action. You see where I bought the lows, and so, well, you can see where price comes down. Well, the puts increase in value, so price action, I was buying the lows, all right, and then selling off into the highs as price comes down. I'm making profit up there, so bought it back and did it again. Okay, so all through here. So that's all I was doing all day today was buying and selling those, buying the dips and selling the rips right up here. Okay, you can see price action. I'm selling all of the rips up here through here. All right, so that's it. Then I just closed it out because we started this uptrend right through there, and I wanted out of there. So that was the $12,000 day right there. All right, see, buying the dips because it was a put. All right, so as the put, as price pulls up, all right, I buy the dip because the put price is going to dip in value. But as price comes down and rips away from the 3 EMA, it gives me an opportunity to sell into those, into the highs of those candles. So if I take this and pan over here, okay, you can see here I'm selling into the highs of these candles. See that? The highs. Selling off into the highs. Okay, I already had orders waiting for them to just run up there and fill them. All right, so that's what I did today. All right, so that's it. Really, that's it. I just traded SPY. Had a good day. All right, not a bad day at all. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for hanging out with me.